Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figure It Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and if you're watching this the day it came out, it is September 9th, 2023, which makes it the 24th birthday of our friend, the Sega Dreamcast in North America. Before we talk all about the anniversary and all the new stuff that came out over the last year, and just kind of give a little healthy recap of what happened and what might be to come, I want to just request a simple favor from you. If you guys could do me a favor, like this video. Comment down below, subscribe if you haven't done that before, as well as check out all my social media stuff in the description. I've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, my Spreadshirt, and my travel channel. I appreciate the support on those various platforms. Thank you so much. Also, there will be an additional link down there to a specific Twitter link because we're going to be giving something away in conjunction with the Bit Station. So a huge shout out to them for sending me this package you guys can see over here on the side, which is a brand new game that we have not had any exposure to whatsoever. So you have a chance to win that. All the details on that will be coming towards the end of the video. Now, yes. Today is the 24th birthday of the Sega Dreamcast. How awesome is that? Now, of course, when we say that, we are acknowledging the American/Canadian birthday of the original 9999 marketing campaign that kind of took the system by storm, which is probably the most famous one simply because of how good that marketing campaign was. It is, of course, worth noting that the system is nearly actually a year older, coming out in November of '98 in Japan, and would ultimately come out in October of '99 in Europe. So it has a sporadic birthday, as it were, but at least I'm also an American, so I'm going to celebrate the American birthday. But yeah, my favorite console of all time. Now, if you're not familiar with this, it's the Sega Dreamcast actually still gets brand new games every once in a while. It's just that Sega has nothing to do with them. Usually other major developers and publishers have nothing to do with it either. It's the indie movement that's been keeping the system alive. I actually, not too long ago, earlier this year, did an entire video on the history of the indie scene for the Sega Dreamcast, going through every single title that existed up to that point. Even had an interview with Dan Lucen, who's the guy who helped to create Feet of Fury, the very first game ever released for the independent movement. So it's I think a sorely underrated video you should go back and check out. People tend to avoid it just because of how long it was. But that's because I was going through every single game that was ever released for the independent scene. But what else should we talk about? Yeah, well, we're going to talk about some of the games that came out this year, obviously, and then we'll talk about a couple of new ones. I should also mention before we go too far, Wave Studios, which is another Dreamcast developer and publisher, also made a game called Driving Strikers. However, I don't have that game yet, so I don't really have anything to show you other than stock art. Inevitably, that game will get its own video. Technically, it came out in this year, but I simply have not had access to it yet. But stay tuned, we will be doing a video about it, I'm sure, at some point. So the first thing we got this year, when I say this year, I mean the calendar year since the previous birthday, so of course that being September 9th, 2022, the first thing that came out was this, the Astroport Collector, which probably should have said Astroport Collection. This came from us, from our buddies over at Pixel Heart, specifically the publisher being Josh Prod, Pixel Heart being the distributor. This was basically the year of Josh Prod as far as the Dreamcast goes, which is not that surprising. Josh Prod is one of probably the most prominent of all of the publishers for the Dreamcast that still remain. There are a few, and that dude tends to like go silent for a while and then hit you with like 12 games at once. I would say effectively 5 new games this year, and he was responsible for 4 of them. So yeah. Now the first thing that he put out this year was the Astroport Collector, which was effectively consistent of 4 different games, 2 of which that had already existed on the Sega Dreamcast that he had previously released, those games being Sega ZS Next and Wolfflame. I did videos on those years ago when they actually came out, but this set included 2 games exclusively released on just this iteration of the set, and to my knowledge has never been released in any other form. Those 2 games being Gigantic Army and Zengeki Warp. Again, I did videos on each one of them, so if you're curious on how they play or what they're like, feel free to watch those videos. But yeah, thank you very much to the people at Pixel Heart who sent me this last year. Well, you know what I mean, before, like almost a year ago this came out. It barely made the cutoff, but then again, you know, it's out, so we can all go ahead and play it. So pick it up if you haven't. I'll put links in the descriptions to not only this, but all the other stuff, so you can pick up any of this stuff if you want to. The next couple of games that came up here were like a sister situation here. We had Andro Dunos, which again was Josh Prod, by Pixel Heart. This was originally a Neo Geo title back in the early 90s. Josh Prod, as I've said about him in the past, well, his actual name is Phil, but his company is bizarre. Like most indie developers and publishers, their whole thing is like, oh, I'm passionate about the Dreamcast for one reason or another, and I'm going to make my own game and this, that, and that. And his policy is more like, well, I'm not really going to do it that way. I'm just going to buy up the rights to other games and then like port them over to the Dreamcast. Okie dokie. So that's what he did in this case. He approached Visco, which is a company that originally made Androidunos for Neo Geo hardware back in the early 90s. Bought up the rights, and basically had his team converted over to the Dreamcast, and that's how you got Androidunos on the Dreamcast. Then, because he owned the rights to it, he decided to go ahead and actually develop an original sequel, Androidunos 2. Now, in talking to him when this was coming out, he basically told me that, because he's so passionate about the Dreamcast, which you would obviously have to be if you're doing that kind of level of effort, he said that while they had no choice but to essentially put this on modern systems and modern platforms, it's on PC, I believe it's on Switch and other places, I think it might be a PS4 version as well. There's definitely a 3DS version of this, which I think is one of, if not the last 3DS game. It was actually originally intended for the Sega Dreamcast, at least according to what he told me, because that was the Passion system, so that he claims is the best version, and the other ones are just kind of upscaled or high-resed in some way or another. Not to say they're bad, it's just that he was effectively making the point that he loves the Dreamcast enough that this is where their heart was, which I find is kind of interesting, hence the name Pixel Heart, I suppose. Androidunos 2. Now, I did videos on each one, Androidunos 1 and 2, but there you go. We've effectively already covered 4 of the 5 that came out this year. Not to say I don't have much to say about them, it's just that I already did videos on all of them, and I want you to check them out. But we have some other stuff that I hadn't covered yet. This one is not a game. This is where we go into like 5 games plus, and when I say plus, or 5 asterisk, because this is not a game, but this did come out here. My buddy Dan over at Video Games New York, who runs that, he has a lot of stuff to publish, but this year it was kind of quiet for him. But the one thing he got out that was kind of fascinating to me is this, the 240p test suite. Now, this is not a game. This is effectively application software for the Dreamcast that allows you to color correct and do. It's got a whole bunch of just random features, and well, not random, but it's got a whole bunch of features on it that are useful for configuring the Dreamcast for various purposes. Now, this is the kind of software tool that you would have expected to just be like an ISO that you could download and burn because nobody's going to spend time doing it. No, he actually went ahead and made a press release out of it, making it the first pressed application for the Dreamcast probably since like the web browser 3.0 back in like 2002 or whatever it was. So that's actually kind of an interesting little footnote, but no, it is not technically a game. But if you want to pick it up, I'll put a link in the description to it. I did not do a video on this specifically just because this isn't a game, so there isn't really a video in there, in my opinion, for me anyway. But if you're more technical on that side of things and you want to look into it, this is definitely worth looking into and covering, I suppose. But yeah, the test suite, it's region-free, HDMI and VGA compatible, VMU compatible, microphone compatible, keyboard support, light gun support, Maraca support, arcade stick support, obviously Dreamcast support. It's just basically a test suite to configure a whole bunch of stuff. So interesting application nonetheless. So thank you very much to Video Games New York. That's where, where the plus or asterisk comes in, because it's a new release, but not a game. Then we have a couple things here that are not yet come out. They're essentially teasers. When Dan sent me the 240p test suite, he also sent me some mock-up art for a couple of games that are coming up. This one is called Recnum Soul's Adventure. This will be, I believe, is right around the corner. It just hasn't been quite completed in time for the birthday. And the other one was Ploid. So expect videos on this coming soon. Probably you'll see the actual game show up in Playload first, and then they'll have dedicated videos at some point, because in case it isn't obvious at this point, since the Sega Dreamcast is my favorite game system all time, I do like to make videos on every single individual game that comes out and just give them their time in the sun, as it were. But that being the case, we have a package. Now, we're going to open this up. Again, this comes from BitStation. And BitStation really just full-on Michael Jordan at the buzzer came in here. This just came out like a couple of days before the birthday. So we were lucky enough to get it, and they were cool enough, worked out a little deal with them. They're going to be willing to give away one free copy of this game to a lucky Twitter user. So we'll go over that in a minute, but let's take a look at the game first. So inside this package, we have, we'll just get rid of the box. It's all wrapped up here, obviously. Inside, past that, going through all this, we've got a new game, obviously, as well as a little, let's see if there's anything important on this little document here. No, this is essentially just a receipt, effectively saying that they sent it to me. So it came with a little sticker that says, I am gaming inverted, the BitStation games, so go ahead and check them out. And then here is the game itself. This is the latest Sega Dreamcast independent release. This is a game called Big to Small. This has nothing to do with Josh Prod. This is a puzzle game. So I'm going to go ahead and read the description to you. Big to Small is a new puzzle game where you try and guide the animals to their corresponding food of choice. There are a few obstacles along the way which you must navigate in order to reach your goal. Each animal has a unique trait which can aid you and your journey. Melanie the mouse, for example, can fit in the mouse holes, and Giselle the goat is the only one that can eat bushes blocking your way. Can you find your way to victory and keep all the animals happy as you play or swap your way from big to small? So it's a cool puzzle game. So I'm going to be doing a whole video on this at some point relatively soon, but so that's just a little teaser for what came. So that's effectively the 5th game, and it's very nice that this barely came out. So we got 5 games, and one of them is not a shoot 'em up, because we're starting to fall into that trap the Dreamcast used to have, where every single game that was coming out was a shoot 'em up, and we got tired of it, and then nobody was making shoot 'em ups, and all of a sudden we went back to making shoot 'em ups. It's like, let's balance it out a little better. So this helps to balance that equation. So stay tuned for that video. But if you want to win a free copy of this, you absolutely can do that. There is a link in the description of this video, again, to a specific tweet. Now that tweet, all you have to do is, if you're on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called now, if you're on there, all you have to do is follow me, because it will be my tweet, follow the Bit Station, who will be tagged in that tweet, and then make sure to retweet the tweet. Like it as well. Once you've done that, you're effectively entered to win a free copy of this game shipped to you directly from the Bit Station. We'll let the contest go for a few days, and then a winner will be selected, and I will contact them personally, and then you will receive a copy of Big to Small for the Sega Dreamcast, the absolute latest in the Sega Dreamcast library. So huge shout out to the Bit Station for sending that my way. Shout out to Video Games New York for providing the 240p test suite, of course, and of course their upcoming games they're going to have, as well as Josh Prod and Pixel Heart for producing the majority of this year's content. So I'll put links in the description to all these guys if you want to support them. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you found the last year of the Sega Dreamcast fascinating. Hopefully the next year has more stuff. I mean, we already know 2 of them right away, and there will be definitely more, I'm sure, because I can't imagine Josh Prod doesn't have anything in the pipeline. I know there's a few other games that are kind of on the horizon. So yeah, it is still fundamentally amazing to me. I talked about this extensively in that Indies video, which again I highly recommend going back and watching, because that one was way more in depth because we went through everything. But it's still stunning to me that it's 2023 and we are talking about brand new Sega Dreamcast games 24 years later, which is insane. I mean, that's granted they're not officially licensed by Sega, but you got to give props to Sega for just staying out of it. That ain't what Nintendo would do. So yeah, very, very cool. It still just boggles my mind. If you could have gone back to 1999 and told me like, hey man, they're still gonna be making new Dreamcast games 24 years from now, I can't imagine I would have possibly believed you. Even especially, you know, when the indie scene started back in 2003, which is what I said in the indie video, but like the idea that that scene would be over 20 years old, which is why I actually did the anniversary video on it, because it in of itself was now 20 years old, which is baffling. But yeah, just to have all these new games still coming, awesome. So huge shout out to, again, Bit Station, Video Games New York, and Josh Prod / Pixel Heart. Thank you again very much for watching. Again, if you please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, as well as check out all the social media stuff in the description: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, and my travel channel. I appreciate that. And obviously go to that special Twitter link and try to win a copy of Big to Small. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.